Hi, my name's Louise Broekman. I'm the founder and CEO of the Advisory Board Centre and here with our Advisor Insights interviews. And I've got the pleasure of having Wes Hall, also the founder and CEO of Tomorrow Super. Welcome, Wes.
Thanks, Louise. Good to be here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing your story the other day when we had an event in Sydney, and so we had to capture it and do it again, Wes. So thank you for doing this. But maybe we just start off with finding out a bit about your background and why you're doing what you're doing.
So I've been in financial services for 25 years. I've always sort of been interested in kind of innovation and kind of getting stuff done, and naturally that sort of leads in this world to sort of things that are a bit digital and sort of a bit innovative. So I created Australia's first ever robo advice engine 20 odd years ago. That seemed to be pretty innovative at the time, and there's been a few other things where I've been able to just play along the wealth management value chain across 4 different continents, and I was kind of intrigued enough about why people didn't care enough about their super almost 4 years ago, to the point where I went, well, maybe I could be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So that was sort of foundations for Tomorrow Super, my little business.
It's a very exciting time, and you've got an advisory board and forming your advisory board now. What was the catalyst for that, Wes?
It sort of just felt like it evolved. It was I'm very aware of having a lot of like people working on one thing, just coming up with the same sort of ideas. And so I've always been a big believer of diversity, and I think gender diversity is important, but diversity of any background, ethnic backgrounds, but also just different vocations is really important to be able to bring to a problem, right? And so I felt with the small and dedicated team that we had that perhaps we could bring in some other insights, and I felt like maybe the traditional kind of board doesn't naturally lend itself, I think, to a more frank conversation, because you get kind of caught up in all the normal stuff. And so I was talking to a few people about that problem, and a few people said, it sort of said, oh, have you considered an advisory board? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know what that means, or how does that really work, and what's it mean between a board and an advisory board? And so I kind of leaned into that a bit more, and fortuitously I came across the guy who later became the chair of our advisory board, Andrew Murray, and I know he's part of the advisory board centre, and so he helped educate me a bit about what an advisory board might be able to bring, and it's been just on 12 months, and it's delivered everything I wanted and more. I've been really pleasantly surprised about how it's helped us along.
And so how has it made a difference to you, Wes?
It's the bit that was probably most unexpected, but it's probably been the most valued, is just the support. And I think when you're starting out in a small business, it can feel like it all sits on your shoulders at times, and to have 4 other advisory board members who can help lighten the load at times when there's a lot going on, but also just kind of go, well, no, you're actually doing a really good job, is kind of, it's good to hear sometimes, right? Because it just feels like there's just 1,000,001 problems and you're just having to deal with so many of them. And so that's probably one of the challenges I have as a leader, is I just kind of I focus on kind of what the problem is, resolve it, and then kind of move on to the next problem. And it's nice to be able to have some people that can kind of help sort of recognise those milestones as you hit them, and kind of reflect on that, and kind of that in itself provides some renewal. But I think outside of the support, it's a diversity of thought, the network as well, like just being able to be able to sort of tap in. I've got this kind of problem. Do you know anyone who might be able to help? And so it's not that I'm necessarily asking the advisory board to do all the work, but rather they might know someone else who has come across that problem before and can help to solve to that.
Yeah, they're a handy group of people to know and to tap into. Can I just ask you around this whole thought leadership thing and the diversity? What's the difference of having an advisory board when it's designed as a thinking system with multiple people around the table at the same time versus having a one-on-one conversation with one person supporting you?
Yeah, it's that sort of interplay you get between the different individuals, and so I can go in a place where I may not have envisaged, right? And I think if you've set up this environment where there is an open discussion, you've kind of got a chair who's allows things to kind of flow. You do get that benefit of this cross pollination of kind of insights and experience that people have. There's the role of the chair is kind of important, right? To kind of get that balance in that, how do you let a conversation flow? But and those of us that have been in corporate life a bit, like sometimes you kind of be a bit wary of that. It's like, oh well, it's just going to be a big talk fest, and so, but just kind of finding that balance is kind of really, really important. Because you might think, oh, this is going nowhere for sort of 5 or 10 minutes, but actually kind of letting it sort of tease out a little bit can be really valuable, and it kind of brings to that sort of that thinking system that you sort of talked about.
Yeah, it is interesting because the advisory board members, the external advisors, aren't in the business every day. So for them to have a conversation they've never had either before, it's an interesting one for everybody being involved in it.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and so it's that's a challenge in itself, right? It's about how much information do you give to the advisory board members, because you kind of also want them to be sort of coming at it relatively fresh and be able to kind of see from a different perspective rather than for me to try and fill in all the gaps along the way, right? So it's kind of useful just to sort of frame up a problem and sort of start to throw that around for discussion.
Yeah, great. So Wes, your tips. What top tips would you give other business owners?
Well, I think you don't necessarily need to go with the first advisory board member participant or potential member that you come across. So talk to a few different people. I think it's clear. It's important to be clear on the expectations of the advisory board members up front. So time commitment, was important. How you got to remunerate them, what's in it for them, and so it doesn't have to be a typical kind of like X dollars per hour or whatever. It can be what's in it, what are they looking for, and I think as part of this expectation setting with the advisory board as well is that I think advisory boards a little bit differently to normal boards or full boards in that it can be transient, and so it can be, well, what do you need for the business for the next 6 or 12 months? It doesn't necessarily need to be who are the advisory board members you need for the next 5 years. And so it was helpful for me, and I think for the other advisory board members to say, well, for 2019, what do you think the skills and experience that we need to be able to, as part of an advisory board? And then we did that exercise just after Christmas again and said, well, what do we think that looks like for 2020? And there was a lot of commonality, but there was also a lot of difference. And so we're kind of then, stepping back from that and going, well, the advisory board members in 2019 were fantastic, but maybe we need to think about, well, how does that actually evolve? And so it might be, you might bring other people in, you might take some people off. It's, that's sort of what you balance out. But I think if you set that expectation up front, it's going to be, it's not that the advisory board member who step off hasn't done a good job. It's far from that. It's just the naturally evolve.
Yeah, and that inherent flexibility is its strength long term for the business to be able to make it fit for purpose for where they are. And Wes, what tips would you provide advisors?
Well, I'd say a kind of, that's a good question. I haven't thought too much about what tips I'd give to the advisors, but I think you'd go, it's that. Well, I'm obviously with my own experience, I would say, ask the person or the people that are supporting it, like, how you can help. I found that particularly helpful, like, because sometimes you're reluctant as a part of the business, you're reluctant to ask for help, and so if you kind of reframe that, and I think that makes it much easier to be able to kind of share. I think there's it's kind of, there's a style, there's kind of a way of working, and so I think it's kind of trying to get a sense of kind of how different individuals want to operate. I think it's a good way to do it. And I also think that what I love about advisory board is it can have a degree of informality, and so just being able to use modern technology tools. So we've got an advisory board member out of the UK, and sometimes you think, oh, that'd be too hard with the time zones, but it actually works really well. We've got WhatsApp, you Zoom, you can turn things around overnight. Like, you can kind of make that work with the modern environment that we operate in, and notwithstanding, we're all working from home at these days, right? Like, it's how to use different technology tools to sort of enable the business to be able to progress forward.
And this is where the skills of a chair really come into play, to be able to navigate the technology bit and get the most out of the environment for the owner.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Wes, thank you so much.
No worries, Louise. I would acknowledge, though, the role that the advisory board centre has been a really positive one for our business. So not only is our chair one of our other advisory board members, is also a member of the advisory board centre. So, that's been great, because it's brought some structure to it, and for us to, as an owner, have never had any experience at advisory board before, it's been great that there's a method and some things that are now written down. I'm seeing increasingly with what you shared the other night, right? It seems really simple, and so that's great that companies such as mine and others in the future get a benefit from the great work that you're doing in the advisory board.
Thank you so much, Wes. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, and look forward to continuing to support you on your journey as well.